Since 2005, I have lived in Hickory, North Carolina, a small town located about an hour from Charlotte. Like most small towns and even many big cities, the history of Hickory is largely unknown to its residents, and that certainly included me. I did see vestiges of this past, however. One country restaurant my family sometimes visited when I was growing up featured a number of historic photos of buildings important to the development of Hickory as a city. I found one of these pictures particularly interesting, however. The picture was a photograph of a beautiful Victorian-style building, 3 stories tall, with an even taller observation tower. A label below the photo gave the building's identity, the Hickory Inn, also noting that the building had tragically burned down in the early 20th century. I had a tremendous fear of fire as a small child, so the idea of a big hotel going up in flames like that was terrifying and fascinating to me. I woke up the next morning reeling from a nightmare in which I myself was trapped in the burning Hickory Inn. Recently, that memory, along with some good old-fashioned morbid curiosity, started me on a search to find out more about what happened to the Hickory Inn. Was there any loss of life? How did the people trapped in the blaze react? And what impact did the fire have on Hickory at the time? I set out to find the answers to these questions. Information was difficult to come by, but thanks to an archive of an original 1907 newspaper article, here is what I was able to find about the death of the Hickory Inn, once the town's premier hotel, reduced to ruins of fire. Hickory, North Carolina was incorporated in 1870, and the southern town began to see substantial growth during the 1880s, with a number of new infrastructure projects being built. One of the most notable architectural additions to the city during the decade, as well as what would be the town's premier lodging destination, was the Hickory Inn. A gorgeous Victorian-style hotel, the Hickory Inn began construction in 1887, with the Hickory Hotel and Improvement Company being behind the project. The cost ended up being roughly $50,000, more than $1.6 million in today's money. The hotel contained 3 stories, with an observation tower standing roughly 100 feet high. According to historian Richard Eller, the Hickory Inn featured 60 rooms, containing modern amenities such as running water and even electricity. The hotel's interior was also notable for its stunning murals painted by artist F.A. Grace, which featured prominently in the hotel's lobby, office, and dining room. Despite several construction delays, the Hickory Inn opened its doors at the tail end of 1888, becoming widely recognized as an easy candidate for the most beautiful and modern hotel in North Carolina. If you needed to spend a night in Hickory and had the money, the Hickory Inn was the place to go. And things would remain that way for nearly 20 years. The citizens of Hickory had no idea, however, that in this grand hotel's 19th year, its days would be brought to a swift, dramatic, fiery end. The sun won't rise for hours, but the moon is obscured by clouds. Ice coats the streets of Hickory, as the city is enveloped by the cold darkness of a winter night. It's early in the morning on February 25th, 1907. The Hickory Inn stands quiet in the darkness. 14 people are staying as guests in the Hickory Inn at this time, sleeping peacefully in their beds. But unfortunately, that peace will soon end. It could not be completely determined where the fire originated from, but regardless of where it began, it spreads with terrifying speed. The darkness of the night is overtaken by the blinding light of consuming flames. The silence is pierced by the roar of a massive fire, and the cold of winter gives way to a blazing heat. Cries from outside enter the ears of F.S. Holt on the 3rd floor of the Hickory Inn, waking him up. The New York man runs to his door and opens it only for a black mass of smoke to be waiting in the hallway. He slams the door shut, thinking about what he should do. Meanwhile, in a corner room on the second floor, Baltimore man E.O. Hinton is shaken awake by the same cries heard by Holt, though their volume is challenged by the roar of the massive blaze. He runs over to his door and opens it to see flames consuming the second-floor staircase. The ruthless blaze has already completely engulfed the hotel's ground floor. Hinton suddenly realizes that in this situation, conventional escape is not an option. He closes his door, walks to the other side of his room, and opens the window. Meanwhile, now dressed in minimal clothing, Holt gropes his way through the hallway, having dared to venture out of his room in hope of finding an escape from the burning hotel. After finding his way through one door, he encounters an elderly man mindlessly running in abject terror. He tells the man to take hold of him, encouraging the man that together they'll make it out of this horror. After trying to make their way through the smoke, the two eventually manage to find the way to the second floor, but their hopes are dashed by the presence of nothing but raging, consuming flames below that. Outside, onlookers are horrified by an inevitable sight. In desperation to escape, a man leaps from the window on the second story. He lands on the concrete path below, severely injuring his back. That man, A.D. Stanford, is neither the first nor the last guest to jump from the building in panic desperation. Nearly half of the other guests would do so as well, sustaining injuries. Even the hotel's own manager, J.E. Montague, would jump to escape. Watching from his window, Hinton keeps a more level head, seeing that the fire department has arrived. He leans out the window and yells for a ladder. Meanwhile, Holt has a similar idea, helping the old man through the smoke until finally finding the hotel's balcony. He yells for a ladder, and soon both him and the old man are rescued. In an interview shortly thereafter, Holt would reflect on the harrowing escape, saying, quote, "One experience like that is enough." The firefighters have now raised a ladder to Hinton's window, but he quickly realizes escape won't be that simple, as the windowsill is coated with ice. When trying to get onto the ladder, he may slip and fall, and suffer the same fate as the others who dare to jump from the building. Thinking fast, Hinton ties together his bed covers. He ties one end to himself, the other to his bed's headboard, creating a harness to keep him from falling when he slips. Bravely, Hinton gets on the windowsill. He slips on the ice just as he predicted, but is kept from falling by his makeshift harness. He manages to grab hold of the ladder, before untying himself and climbing down to safety. All 14 guests survived, along with every staff member at the hotel. Thanks to the heroism of the firefighters, along with that of night clerk Joe Murphy, who risked his own life to wake up guests on the second floor, no human lives were lost that night. Unfortunately, the Hickory Inn itself was not so lucky, as early 20th century firefighting technology didn't stand a chance against the massive inferno. The hotel was engulfed in flames, lighting up the city. There was nothing that could be done. The Hickory Inn, described at the time by the newspaper The Hickory Democrat as, quote, "the town's chief ornament and a source of pride to every citizen," burned down completely that morning. Nothing was left, save for unrecognizable ruins. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the Hickory Inn, I have linked an archive of a February 28, 1907 newspaper article from the Hickory Democrat in the description below. This was my main source for this video and contains the first-hand testimonies of Holt and Hinton. So if you'd like to hear their stories in their own words, check it out. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. And if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel and enable notifications.